Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to see how employment opportunity is in India and how this market has evolved from our independence till now, precisely from 1947 till 2016. Now, before going into this sector, let us give some introduction about it. As you all know, employment is one of the important parameter for any individual in a country. It decides their lifestyle. It is going to be their source of bread and butter. It is going to be their survival mode of survival, in fact. So, in any country, if I want to weigh how the development is happening, then the important parameter which I would always assess is the employment rate. If a country has very high unemployment rate, then it is very clear that they are not utilizing the human resource what they have in their hand. So let us come back to our context. Our context here is India. Now, let us go back to our history. What happened in 1950? After our independence, Nehru took a U-turn in our way in which our economic policies were framed. He said we are going to focus more on heavy industry rather than agriculture. His policies focused more on capital intensive projects, which employed lesser number of people while comparing the segment which demanded more people. So, due to this system, what happened? The way in which people think evolved. They thought the employment means it is only public sector employment. So, in which case, the social security has been already confirmed. They cannot be fired from a government job. So, the mentality of people who were there in the 1950s, 1960s, where government job is the best. Now, the problem started. In 1970, we understood that government alone cannot provide employment to the entire human resources whatever we have in our hand. So our government started to frame their policies in such a way that it focuses more on labor-intensive projects. What was the outcome of it? The employment rate started to increase steadily, and that is not the end. Due to the balance of payment crisis, we had to open our Indian economy as per the mandate of IMF. It happened in 1991, and as a result of that, a lot of private companies started to come in. Now, the employment opportunities generated in India happen not only because of public sector government, public sector units, rather, right now it started to happen because of a lot of private sector units. So it is interesting to note that while the aggregate level of employment in urban areas has increased while comparing the rural area, and it is reasonable in fact. Now let us go back to the structure of employment sector to understand how exactly it is working out, what kind of changes we can do to increase the employment level. So if I say structure, what I mean is how it is kind of distributed in a rural segment and urban segment. And in fact, only a small segment of people are employed in a formal sector. On the other hand, we have a huge amount of people who are employed in an informal sector. So, what do we analyze from this? We cannot actually track the most of the employment data from this informal sector, and the social security provided informal sector of employment is relatively bad while comparing the formal one. So let us try to understand the core issue in our unemployment rate. So while the share of agriculture GDP declined from 41 percentage to 15 percentage right now, the employment which has happened because of agriculture has declined only from 74 percentage to 50 percentage. So right now it is very clear that there is a huge gap between this. We molded our economy in such a way that it focuses more on the service sector, but still we are dependent more on the agriculture area. So it is pretty clear from this data that if you want to generate more employment right now in India, the major focus should not be on agriculture, rather should be on some other sector. And we also missed some important achievement or the global opportunity what other East Asian countries did. For example, China, they understood the impact of employment level in their country and their booming middle class segment. So they tried to employ the labor intensive industries such as apparel or food wears to employ a lot of people. So what happens over here? Here, they don't have to focus much on developing the skill set of people. Rather, they try to develop unskilled laborers and they matched that unskilled laborers with these industry which doesn't demand much of the skill. So because of this, you can employ huge amount of people in your country, and you can boost your employment rate drastically. And this is one of the missed opportunity for India. Now, what is the future prospectus? What can we do in India so that we can increase the total employment rate? First point. Right now, we are very good in agriculture. We are self-sufficient. We don't have any problem with the sufficiency of food as we had in our uh, Indira Gandhi time, earlier Indira Gandhi time, thanks to the Green Revolution. Moreover, we should focus more on the manufacturing sector, which has a very high potential of taking a lot of human capital. And here, to allow our members to go into the manufacturing segment, we need skilled laborers. And for skilled laborers, right now, our government is doing a lot of skill development schemes, which will definitely boost the Indian economy to the new heights. So now, what else is left behind? If we go in deep, we will understand another important parameter, which is dragging us down, which is dragging us down in terms of not allowing so much of capital focus on manufacturing sector. That is nothing but the restrictive labor laws what we have in our hand. So if we take Industrial Dispute Act, which is currently in place, has a lot of restrictions which doesn't allow entrepreneurial spirit in the manufacturing segment. One such example is if we have our workers more than 100 in one particular firm, we cannot fire them. Or worst, we cannot even change their job from one particular domain to the another particular domain. There is a huge process which should be followed by the company to do these changes. So what happens here? We are not allowing members to participate frequently in these kind of risky projects, and because of this, the ease of doing business ranking is coming down relatively in India while comparing other global countries. So I want to wind up this entire session by saying what we discussed till now. We started by saying how our employment rate started from the beginning, from the Nehruvian time. Then we went ahead in 1970s and we explained what kind of changes happened. Then we explained about our after liberalization segment, and we also discussed the structure of the employment rate, what we have, employment segment, what we have in our hand, and at last we try to explore and try to give few inputs on how we can move ahead with the employment rate. So thank you for watching.